Cashiers of Reddit. Do you judge the customers based on the items they're buying? And if so, how? What's your weirdest story? No weird as such. I once worked as a cashier at Coles supermarket in Australia. For those whom are unsure, I worked in a pretty seedy suburb, so seeing weird people come through was my out of character. However, there was this Asian man who came through once a week. He either didn't speak English or didn't speak it that well. He seemed like a very nice fellow. He would always come through with 24 bags of flour and nothing else at all. Always paid in cash, presumably for a business he was running. As far as judging customers, I suppose I did judge him, but not negatively. Judge him in the sense of what his use for the flour might be. On another note, one week one of the flour bags wasn't put together properly, and so, when I went to scan it, the bag tore open and coated my area in flour. We both laughed, and that was fun to clean up. This kind of elderly lady came in and bought lube, Pedialyte, a fifth of whiskey, condoms, and a cucumber. I remember scanning the Pedialyte and whiskey first and absent-mindedly asking, "Crazy night planned?" Just as my brain realized what the rest of the stuff in the basket was, she laughed and said, "It's been a long week, and at my age you don't want to put up with the bar crowds." Being 18, I just sort of awkward chuckled and said, "Isn't that the truth?" She laughed and said, "Honey, if you're still single at my age you'll understand," and walked away. I still think about that sometimes. I worked at Taco Bell for a year and a half. Most of the time didn't really pay attention to what you ordered. But one time, at 7:30 AM on a Saturday, this guy pulled up to the drive-thru and ordered a single side of sour cream. When he got to the window he paid with change, obviously, as his total was 35 cents or something. But the weirdest part was he asked for a spork. I still wonder what he was doing. I work in online grocery fulfillment. In short, I shop for people, bag it up, and place the items in rolling totes, fridge and freezers. I've seen some weird orders. One of my favorite types to speculate on is when they are 50% organic vegan items and the other half is absolute junk food and meat products. I always visualize a couple whose polar opposites, or a vegan poser who hides their guilty pleasures from their religiously vegan roommates under their bed, or in a locked fridge somewhere in the house. These thoughts are all in a funny 90s sitcom style. I'm late to this, but I did do reception at my clinic while I was pregnant, so I had to deal with payments, so I guess this counts. It's not a judgment case, but a good Samaritan case, which we rarely saw. Vet care isn't cheap and people would often yell at me or other receptionist because of the price. Even though working in the back I know pretty much every doctor would give you a price breakdown and you sign it saying you agree and saw it. Anyways, so this one guy is paying for his routine vaccines and some heartworm meds. Then a lady comes in distraught carrying her pretty much lifeless dog. As a tech I jumped up, told the man, "Give me a second." He nods and I grab the dog and rush it to the back and get the lady into a room and ask what happened. "Dog just collapsed," she said, "after a walk. We live in Texas, it's hot, so it's most likely heat related." The lady makes a note to say in the lobby she doesn't have a lot of money, so please do what you can keeping that in mind. I tell the doctor and the techs working on the pet what happened, and I go back up front to help the man I was helping previously. I apologized for running away. He said it was fine. I finish his transaction and says, "Call me when that lady is done." I look at him a little confused, and he said, "Whatever she can't pay for I will." I'm shocked. This wouldn't be cheap. He says I'd see the price. If I almost lost my baby and I couldn't pay to let her get fixed up, I would be devastated. I tell him to hold on a second, and I ask if he wanted me to tell the lady it was him or not, and he says just let her know of it as a kindness he hopes she can pass on someday. I take his number and go and tell the woman as she is looking at the price breakdown and she says she can't pay. I ask if I can interrupt for a second, let her know what this man did for her, and she almost fainted. So the dog was fixed up and left after a day or two of observation. A couple of months later, before I go on my maternity leave, she comes back and says she has been working and saved up some money to donate to the hospital for someone that needs something extra to help them. So yeah, it was an amazing thing to see, and I haven't seen it since. When I was a cashier at Little Caesars, a customer came in on the phone saying something like, "Okay hun, I'm at the pizza place. Since 20 kids and their parents came to the day party, I was thinking like 5 or 6 pizzas. Sound good? Okay, love, bye." But when he moved his phone from his face, he didn't hang up, and the screen was very clearly on the home screen the whole time. He ordered, made some small talk about too many people, paid, and then left. The only judgment I made was pity, because he must be a very lonely dude that really loved pizza but didn't want to be judged for buying so many for just him. Other than that, the only people I judged by their purchases were the super fried stoners that couldn't decide between cheese and pepperoni, and only because it took them forever to choose. Alright, so I'm working at Dollar General, a normal night, but this guy comes in striding with confidence. Greet him with a hello, as I do with customers, but he's in the zone and forgoes the formalities. He walks straight to the movie rack and grabs a cheesy kung fu movie and walks to the counter. I ring it up, and it costs $5.46. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a bag of nickels and a single penny. A 109 nickels and a single penny for a kung fu movie called Kung Fu Masters or something that looked like it had a $100 budget. I've never had more respect for someone in my entire life. He knew what he wanted, and he got it. Worked at a rough brand Kroger store. Guy would always come in for a can of whipped cream and Pop Rocks, the candy that fizzles in your mouth, at least twice a month. I always wondered WTF was this about. Probably some weird oral act. It was confirmed when a lady started coming in for those 2 items. Apparently he got into a wreck before I seen him in her passenger seat with crutches in the back. Cashier of 4 years. I couldn't care less what people buy. Customers buy what they want to buy and are free to do as they please. It makes no difference to me. Things that do irk me. Customers throwing their cash and change on the counter when I've clearly had my hand extended since before they even reached for their wallet. Customers leaving things they brought on the counter. Yes, I'm aware that it's my job to put misplaced items back, but if you yell at me because the item you took without checking the giant yellow price tag is too expensive for you and toss it on the counter with a snarky comment, you can go fuck yourself. Customers that have been driving 3x longer than I've been alive, not knowing how to pay for gas or pump gas. I work at a gas station OBV. For example, here's an average conversation. C. Fill up the gas. Me. Sure. Which pump are you on? C. The white car. Me. Looks outside to see 4 white cars all lined up in a row. Do you know which pump number your white car is on? C. No. Me. Could you point out the window and tell me what car is yours? C. Insert underscore car. Brand underscore hear me. Okay. How much would you like? C. Full. Me. I just need $1 or gallon amount. C. IDK. However much it takes. Me. Internal reeing. Like fam, your hair is grayer than the coins you're paying with, and you're telling me this is the first time you've ever had to pay for gas. Dude comes in for a frozen pizza, 6-pack of BL, pint of Ben & Jerry's and a pack of smokes. You getting the wife out of town special tonight? My wife's been out of town for 17 years now, and that's the last time I used that line. When I was 15, I worked at a DVD store. I wasn't allowed to dust and stock in the adults only section, but only one customer borrowed out from that section anyway. Small, middle-aged man with severe eczema or psoriasis, always wore a blue plastic jacket that made swishing noises when he walked. Quietly came in at 8 AM when nobody else was around, would borrow out Sausage Fest Sunday or MILFs in the Middle or Backdoor Bonanza, whatever the titles were, and quickly depart. Carried a black bag, and declined our transparent plastic ones. Back in my day, you had to leave your home for porn. Even as a 15-year-old girl, I appreciated he seemed embarrassed and made the transaction as fast as possible. After a year of this, he came in one morning and borrowed out a single DVD. Finding Nemo. I guess I couldn't hide my surprise, so he said the only thing he's ever said to me. I have clownfish, and everybody keeps telling me to watch it. And that's it. He eventually ran out of titles I guess, and stopped coming in. Over a decade later, and I still remember the customer who likes horny milfs and clownfish. I never did. The weirdos were people who'd freak out and start apologizing over weird combinations of things that were honestly just standard household or grocery purchases. It's not weird to buy fish sticks, German mustard, raspberry jelly, celery, condoms, and toilet paper in the same transaction. It's weird to start flapping about at the register that you're not going to use those items at once. It's weird to assume that I'd assume you were going to. It's weird to assume I'd care. I did get the people who'd think they were playing a hilarious prank by buying weird combinations of items. I'm buying cucumbers, condoms, and a child's teddy bear. That will freak the cashier out. No, it won't. 90% chance I didn't even notice a single thing you bought. Seriously, a grocery cashier who's been around for more than 6 weeks doesn't even see the physical attributes of cucumber. They see 4062. And if I was to register what you'd bought, I would assume you were a person with a family that you didn't plan on making any larger. Not a vegetable focused child rapist. Sometimes my store would get live lobsters and not let the cashiers know, though. It could be a little strange to pick up the box and feel something walking around in there when you're not expecting it, I guess. My first job was as a cashier in a supermarket. This was like 20 years ago though. I never judged people on what they bought, but I would occasionally judge customers for certain other behaviors. There was this one regular who nobody could stand because she would come in early in the day with her magnifying glass and she would methodically pick up every single item on every shelf, in every aisle, and read the nutrition facts through her magnifying glass while taking notes in a notebook. It wasn't at all unusual for her to come in at the beginning of your 4-hour shift, and she'd only be maybe 2/3 of the way through the store when you left. God help you if she ended up checking out on your register. Like I said, she kept a note of every item she selected, and during checkout she would watch like a hawk, and then have a complete freakout/meltdown if an item rang up at literally 1 cent more than it said on the shelf. Because of this she took like an hour just to check out, which killed the soul of that unlucky cashier as well as pissing off all of the other customers by clogging up that line for an unreasonable amount of time. So back in 2012, I was working as a cashier about 4 days a week. Now mind you, I don't usually pay much attention to what customers buy, but this guy was an exception. He was tall, green looking, and had an unusually long neck. I didn't think much of it and started ringing out his items. Normal items per usual: eggs, milk, pack of beer, chips, but then he pulls 4 more baskets and 2 full carts out of nowhere and places the items all on the conveyor belt as well. Had to have been at least 100 items. And the crazy part was, all of his items were fish. Just fish. Dude's total came out to a little under $3,000. So that's when I was like, so your total is $2,780. 78 inches, and that's when he looked me deadpan in the eyes and said that he only had $2,430. 78 and that he needed tree fiddy, which is when I realized this was actually the Loch Ness monster trying to get another goddamn tree fiddy out Tammy.